All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sunday Wire. I'm your guest host today. My name is Bryan McClain. I'm broadcasting live out of Central Texas. My call sign is Hesher. I'm sure many of you already know that. Welcome to this live broadcast. It is February the 15th of 2026. And hope everybody had a good Valentine's Day yesterday. Speaking of Valentine's, I believe we will be joined by Sunday Wire's very own roving correspondent for culture and sport. Basil Valentine should be joining us today, as well as Adam Clark joining us. And hopefully, Patrick Henningsen will be calling in. We'll see. We shall see. He is on travel today and this week, as many of you may have known if you've been keeping up over at UK Column. We do have a pre-recorded message from Pat, and we're hoping that he gets wheels down and boots on the ground before the show ends so that he can call in and tell us a little bit about his trip. So he's been in Iran, and what a crazy time to be in Iran. If you noticed last week, there was a message sent from the United States government, from the Trump administration, to any U.S. citizens in Iran, telling them basically to leave the country or be prepped for something. So interesting time to go out there. Of course, Mr. Henningsen sees a note like that, and what does he do? He goes the opposite direction. He goes towards Iran. That's what we got going for you over here on the Sunday Wire today. So gosh, I hope everybody's doing well out there, and I hope it almost looks as though we have a connection to YouTube. So shouts out and hello to everybody out there watching live on YouTube, watching live on Rumble, and on X, and on BitChute, and of course at 21stcenturywire.com, alternatecurrentradio.com. These are all your outlets for Sunday Wire. I made a mistake when I was setting up the streams today. So the YouTube notification says that the show's going on around midnight. So, well, depending on where you are, I did the AM PM swippy swap there. So sorry about the dyslexia. But yeah, I'm going to roll into this clip we've got from Patrick. And then on the other side of that, we'll be joined by Ruckus. And if all goes to plan, Mr. Basil Valentine as well. So here we go. A message from Patrick Henningsen out of Iran on his travel here. I'm not sure if he was headed home. See, as the producer of the show, I don't even know where he's headed next. So it's maybe we'll all find out together, eh? Okay, here we go. Here's your oh, I lost it. Here we go. Maybe. See if it'll let me play the clip here. I may have to be on the screen too to get it to happen, but here we go.
This week we're reporting from on the ground in the capital of the Islamic Republic of Iran, Tehran, and it's been a quite incredible journey to get here. A lot of obstacles were put in our way. We managed to arrive here on Wednesday, and as luck would have it, this was the National Independence Day, or the National Rally Day for Iran, and we managed to, after making it through customs, an hour and a half, somehow managed to get through traffic into the city. The traffic was so incredible because there were literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people coming into the city center to join this sort of national display of solidarity for the state, for the government, for the leadership, and really also in opposition of the threats being waged by the United States currently under the Trump administration, threatening to start a war at any moment. It could happen. This is a very real and present concern here, no doubt. But we managed to park the car and walk. A lot of people parked, literally turned a major freeway artery into the city into literally a giant parking lot. And we walked in for the duration, as did many other tens of thousands of people on the road that we took. And we made it to the latter part of this rally. It started at 8 a.m. and finished around 12:31. And we got a chance to experience something that's extraordinary. By anyone's estimation, probably 2 million people attended this rally. So the scenes were incredible. We took a few shortcuts from this, and I'll show a few of those in a moment here. So there's hundreds of thousands of people, I don't know, maybe a million are out here. We're coming up to the main square, but just the sheer mass of Iranians out today is unbelievable. A major event. So what was incredible about this is that we've been told in the Western media by our politicians in the West that there were, all of these anti-quote regime protests going on, and the country is completely divided. People are afraid to come out in the streets for fear of being, attacked by the regime and whatnot. So that's what we've been told. We've been fed a steady diet of this, what can only be described as Western propaganda, and how they characterize what's going on in Iran. And what you saw was this incredible unity, national unity. There weren't just, I would say socially conservative Iranians out, more religious people in this country. Certainly that would have been the majority of the people out, but there were what you might term moderates, secular people, all united under this umbrella, if you will, of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and celebrating the anniversary of the revolution. So, the revolutionary government is alive and well in this country, and it has a massive constituency, and you can really see that for your own eyes here. Certainly, this was one of the reasons why I came on this trip. And there's a lot of reasons why I shouldn't have come. In terms of the threat of war, it's certainly not a pleasant situation if that was to kick off, but I needed to see for myself what was happening here, and I needed to be able to convey that to our audience at the UK column, of course, but also at 21st Century Wire, and really more broadly to our Western audience and our readership and our viewers on these various platforms. So it is really incredible. And what it also showed you is that under threat of attack or external pressure, the response of the people in this country is to galvanize. So if, let's say, the CIA, the Mossad, it's beyond debate that they were involved in fomenting and engineering the unrest that we saw in Tehran weeks ago. There's no doubt about that. In fact, that's been admitted by former heads of U.S. intelligence, Israeli officials, Israeli intelligence, and so forth. They've more or less admitted this. But what they haven't told you is the devastation that this caused in terms of not loss of life of protesters, loss of life of law enforcement. And we were able to see with our own eyes after visiting with the heads of the police forces only just yesterday morning in the actual evidence file and the video evidence, which is quite gruesome, of police officers that were sprayed with kerosene by these so-called peaceful protesters, the West like to characterize them, and then burned alive. I counted at least 8 in the exhibits that were shown. Some of this has been released into the media here, but others, the footage is too gruesome. What they have released is very accurate in terms of CCTV footage and other video footage, which has been widely disseminated by now, of these so-called protesters, which are really rioters, if not agent provocateurs, who were shooting from using the crowd as a human shield in order to shoot at police officers. People were knifed, they were beaten, they were set on fire and then beaten afterwards, or they were beaten and then set on fire. We're talking about police officers. I don't have to tell our viewers here if so-called protesters were to do that in a European country, in the UK, to fire and shoot and kill or set police officers and burn them alive in the United States. So we saw what happened in Minnesota. Just by being a bystander could get you killed in America. But somehow they expect that, the Iranian law enforcement are just supposed to stand down and allow these agent provocateurs to burn down the city and kill who knows how many people. Official numbers from the government are approximately 3,170, And it was interesting. They said out of that total, they regard 2,400 of them as roughly as martyrs, and those would be law enforcement that were killed, innocent bystanders, people who were involved in any sort of nefarious activity. First responders were also counted in there. I mean, firemen were attacked, EMS workers were attacked, police stations were attacked, set on fire. They tried to occupy one of the main police stations in one of the big districts here. So, you know, that leaves 700 of the non-martyrs, as the government would call them. In other words, people that were, in their view, and according to the evidence that they presented, were up to no good and trying to destabilize the country in advance of an airstrike. So it's pretty clear what the program was. If this was indeed, and it seems to be, all evidence points that this was a coordinated color revolution, violent one, more like akin to the Maidan in the sense of the violence that was unleashed. So, you know, all we can say is life got back to normal very quickly. The government shut down the Starlink units that were being used to bypass the internet outage. It's interesting, the authorities found out when they cut the internet, a lot of the unrest and these cells that were organizing and moving around in order to attack law enforcement and look for weak spots in sort of the civil service and civil defense, that all died down very quickly once the internet was cut. And then Starlink was the backup plan by the West, and the Iranians were able to neutralize that. And this is a huge city. This would be like something like a cross between Madrid and Los Angeles. And it got back to normal fairly quickly. People came out in the hundreds of thousands, if not over 1 million, came out in support of the police officers, the hundreds that were killed by these Western and Israeli-backed agent provocateurs. And after that, you know, I can tell you, you can walk freely through the city. There's no really restrictions on anything. And, you know, the other thing that people need to realize is that aside from that issue, this idea that women are forced to cover their heads and wear veils in Iran, it's not true. In fact, at the major demonstration, bear in mind, it had big religious overtones. There were a lot of unveiled women, including an international journalist that I know, who was also reporting. She wasn't wearing a headscarf. And so it's not unusual. In fact, you go out into the markets at night, I would say at least half. If I run a counter, maybe thousands of women, at least half will be uncovered. So, I mean, the propaganda in the West is something extraordinary. So there's a lot of stereotypes and misconceptions that somehow are fueling this drive. It's the only way to describe it, to demonize this country, to soften it up, to delegitimize its leadership, soften it up for a major military action. I think it's pretty clear that's what's going on. So to manufacture that consent, they need people in the West to hate the country, to hate its leadership, to say the supreme leader, if you will, the Ayatollah al-Khamenei, that somehow he's illegitimate, and this is a Islamo-fascist dictatorship. You hear this argument from a lot, hyperbolic arguments from a lot of the people, let's say, who back the Pahlavi royal family, who they think they can parachute in and somehow that's going to be seen as legitimate. I can tell you, you'd be hard-pressed to find even a handful of people in the city of 12 million that would support the reinstallation of a US-backed monarch, or any monarch for that matter. The other thing about this society, which is interesting, which I've learned, is I knew this previously, but there's a huge political discourse in this country, and opposition voices are completely permissible. There's a massive variety, if you will, a lot of diversity in terms of the conversation. So it is not a narrow band of political discourse here. It's massive. It's only that the structure is different here in terms of how their parliamentary system is constructed, and the fact that they do have a leader at the top, which also represents the spiritual life, if you will, of the country, in addition to the political. And of course, the military component is important, especially if you're being attacked by countries in your region or by the United States. So, but what's interesting is this system provides a lot of social and political cohesion here, and it makes you wonder, maybe that's the reason why the West are so hell-bent on regime change in a country like Iran. So that's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of other interesting aspects of this that we could share with you, but suffice to say, and I've really believed this now, having witnessed also the difference in media coverage, or the lack of media coverage in the West of their national day of solidarity, their Independence Day, is that these narratives are so important. We the forces that want to drive our governments and get the people to manufacture the consent for these wars overseas, they need these narratives in order to justify the action. They need the majority of the public, to believe and to hate on, to demonize, to delegitimize target nations and their governments or their leadership. Without that, our governments that are involved in these sort of undeclared wars of aggression, they really can't act. They can't act with the level of impunity. They certainly can't get the public consent to do that. So, if the BBC were to run a story, or the CNN, of 2 million people take to the streets in Tehran in support of the leader and the government, and you see some of the banners at these protests, it's unbelievable. That would really undermine the war propaganda effort. And of course, it would almost be a case of envy, because you have to ask yourself, how many governments in the West can the leadership snap their finger and get 2 million people? And just in the capital, if you count all the other cities during the National Day, there's probably more like over 20 million that took to the streets. I think the estimate that I saw, official estimate, was 26 million. That's all of the cities and municipalities around the country. I mean, for a country of 90 million, that's more than 1 out of 4 people were out on the street. You don't see that level of response to the call for a national emergency or unity. You don't see that in any Western country, or any country full stop in the world. And this, again, one of the unusual, unique aspects of life here. And again, this is why I had to come and sort of understand this for myself, and also be able to inspect the damage sites from the unprovoked Israeli attack on Iran last June, and of course the unprovoked U.S. attack, Operation Midnight Hammer, as it's called, and to inspect some of the damage of that. We might talk more about that in subsequent reports. But and of course, I got attacked by a lot of people on my social media feeds for basically sharing what I've observed. And certainly they don't like it. And it's so funny, all the people who are supposedly champions of free speech in the West, and who opposed COVID lockdowns, they don't support free speech when it comes to geopolitics. Even when you have a Westerner like myself going and making the effort to get here against all sort of travel warnings and all sorts of obstacles, in order to just try to convey some reality of what's actually happened. And and it's not that I'm surprised, because I've been studying and following color revolutions and Western destabilization and Israeli destabilization efforts against target countries for many years, for the better part of, at least in this area, quite intensely, for 15 years in multiple countries. So you get to sort of observe the patterns. You see the clues and the indications that, yes, that's indeed what you're looking at. And of course, that's the same thing here. It's just here, the difference in reality, the scale of the difference of what is the political reality in this country, and the facts on the ground are so vastly, vastly different than the very narrow characterization that you get right across our Western mainstream media. That includes US media, British media, European media. it's actually shameful when you look at it and trying to say, how do these people call themselves journalists? And I even saw some of the mainstream reporting here. It's diabolical. They did let a few journalists in much to their chagrin after the fact, but the reporting has been absolutely horrendous for the few mainstream Western broadcast journalists that did come. I think their work speaks for itself, and we just wanted to share what we've seen here. And again, the people here are quite incredible, totally diverse ethnically and culturally as well. It's a vast country. There's a huge plurality of thought, opinion, political, and ethnic representation here. But in one way or another, all united under an Iranian national identity, which is pretty incredible. So anyway, we'll hopefully share more thoughts and observations, maybe some more insights with you in the coming days and weeks. I'm Patrick Henningsen, reporting from Tehran in the Islamic Republic of Iran for the UK Column News.
All right. Yeah, I was watching the comments come through while we were watching the video there. Many of you echoing a lot of the things that were rattling around in my head as I watched that. You know, it's one thing about 21stCenturyWire.com. I've been working here with Patrick for over a decade now, and we focus a lot on Middle Eastern geopolitics. And for those of you that are new around here, that is far from his first trip into a zone like that. I think that's the second or third trip to Iran. There were a couple trips to Syria, to include Aleppo, when that place was very dangerous. So, and Patrick mentioned it there in his video presentation, 21stCenturyWire.com is highly motivated to go to these places, talk to these people. And we're just wrapping up our winter fundraising drive. Feels like spring right now. We got early spring here in Texas, but I really want to thank everybody that participated in that. And if you're thinking about participating, it's still open if you would like to contribute, that contribution, those memberships, those lifetime memberships at 21stCenturyWire.com, 21Wire TV. They bring you things like that. And they bring us the ability to send Patrick, Freddie, other contributors at 21stCenturyWire.com to some of these locations that most people only talk about. It's hard being a Westerner, especially if you're a 9-to-5 Westerner or managing a big family, running a business, caretaking, raising children, these kind of normal things that you would do in the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness, right? It's very difficult for those of us in those common situations to understand the geopolitical aspects of what's going on right now. So, I just want to thank everybody that contributed to the winter fundraising drive, because these are the kind of things that we're able to do with your support. It means a lot to us. We're going to take a quick break here, and we're going to check out, I think we will go with, I'm going to go with Joseph Arthur. I think we need a little bit of a mantra right now. And then on the other side, we'll kick off Overdrive. We'll bring in Adam Clark, and hopefully Basil Valentine will combat land into the Sunday Wire zone here. So we'll see you on the other side of this wonderful track by our good friend and brother, Joseph Arthur.
Grab gratitude, the antidote. The world is built on fear. The evil world we live in wants our soul to disappear. But gratitude, salvation, and never ending light that transcends all the darkness trying to hold us to the night. Thoughts say what is missing, thank you says what's here. Thoughts keep us unconscious, thank you makes it clear. Back into the moment, the vast eternal now, where God is always with us and holy like a cow, like a sunrise or a child or a garden full of roses. The mind misses the magic and considers all the poses. Why our thoughts against us, principalities are there, whispering indifference on foundations of despair. So thank you is my mantra, mantra. Na 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 na. Thank you is my mantra, mantra. Who set up this funhouse, this journey for our soul, where most never make it and lose all their control? How do we get back any sovereignty from the lies of demons that we pretend to be? Thank you is a pass to a place outside of hell. Gratitude and presence will lift us where we fell, but we have to make a practice to come back into now, in the garden of our gratitude, and push that ancient plow. I don't know the reason we are in a holy war, how we ever come back to who we were before. Did it start in Eden with an apple and a snake? Since then have we been following with this battle as our fate? So thank you is my mantra, mantra. Na 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 na. Thank you is my mantra, mantra. The world will light us, and so will our minds, so will our minds. Whatever is the reason, this is where we are. The light and the darkness are aiming for our heart. The light wants us present in the clutch of gratitude. The darkness wants us scattered with an evil attitude. And we look at the thinking that justifies the course. We see it's thought itself that brings on the divorce. From the Holy Spirit, from revelations bloom, from the love of God to the darkness of the tomb. Voices of all demons we identify as us, and then we follow lies, the wrong voices that we trust. Take us to destruction, take us to despair, when the gift of God himself has always just been here. So thank you is my mantra, mantra. Na 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 na. Thank you is my mantra, mantra. Thank you is my mantra, mantra. Na 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 na. Thank you is my mantra, mantra. Is my mantra, mantra.
All right, welcome back to the Sunday Wire. I'm your host, guest host, Bryan McClain, call sign Hesher, broadcasting live out of Central Texas. Thank you for joining us today for this live broadcast. We're going to be joined by Basil, Valentine, and Ruckus momentarily here. Before we bring them aboard, I would like to remind you, thank you folks in the chat for reminding me to remind the rest of you to hit that like button and that subscribe button, if you would please, whether you're watching on Rumble, BitChute, X, whatever, wherever you might be, YouTube especially. We need those subs over there. That helps more than you know. I hate to ask for it, but hey, we are battling shadow banning, censorship, and all that other fun stuff for bringing you stuff like we just brought you. So if you haven't done that yet, please go ahead and do it. If someone wants to go in there and police those numbers and start that mosh pit and keep it going for us, we would appreciate it. But now let's bring Basil Valentine aboard the Sunday Wire. Basil, welcome to the Sunday Wire. How you doing today?
Hi, Hesher. Hello, everyone. Great to be with you. Yep, I'm doing okay, even though the dystopia seems to get worse every week.
It does seem to sort of expand like the nothingness in that movie that we all loved when we were kids with the flying Jim Henson creature. But anyways, Basil, yes, it is getting bigger, but so are people's attention spans. I'm hoping that people's attention spans are expanding along with the propaganda and all that stuff. So I don't know. It's a battle of attrition, but we'll see where we end up, right?
Yeah, there's more and more noticing going on, isn't there? But at the same time, the forces of darkness are doubling down on their previous agenda. By that, I mean the way the corporate media are downplaying the Epstein files and not going after the sort of forensic examination that we see in independent media. I mean, are there bodies buried on the Trump golf course? Why they're not teams of people in those pop-up tents, digging for human remains? I mean, the idea that there could even be human remains on a golf course belonging to the sitting president of the United States, and everybody just kind of shrugs, and the media ignore it. I mean, we're through the looking glass here, aren't we, pal? As well as all the rest of the most horrific stuff. The most interesting meme I've seen today suggests that the woman who appeared on camera last week masquerading as Ghislaine Maxwell is in fact not her. The shape of her face is really quite different from the known photos of Ghislaine. And while you can say, oh, well, Ghislaine might have had some plastic surgery since she went in jail or immediately before, the way in which she looks different wouldn't be an obvious route to take with any kind of cosmetic surgery. Her nose appears a little broader last week than it was in previous photographs. So I do ask viewers to go and have a look at that. It's a bit like the Biden that everybody got used to in his most recent presidency, looking really like a different individual from the Biden of the 80s and 1980s and 90s. And everybody says, oh, well, he must have had some work done, some tightening or something. Well, maybe Ghislaine has as well, but I'm extremely dubious about whether the individual serving time is her or not. Of course, last week we had is Epstein alive? Farrago furore,
Yeah, that reignited big.
Which reignited, didn't it? And likewise, Ghislaine. So, the fact that Trump and the rest of them want the Epstein files to be buried and go away as quickly as possible, and the corporate media, which, I mean, the Guardian, for example, led for about 24 hours over Saturday and into this morning with the poisoning of Alexei Navalny and what a dastardly plot this was and all the rest of it. Again, doing anything they can to steer away from the Epstein was a Mossad agent gathering compromat on Western politicians, and that's why Israel's allowed to get away with genocide, which is the story that should be dominating the news on a day-to-day basis. But when I go to X, the Hasbara is absolutely turbocharged at the moment with a sort of twin-pronged attack. One is full-on genocide denial. There is no genocide in Gaza. That's the line. Because, of course, if they admit it, then it's all over, But no, there's no genocide in Gaza. And this woman has come out claiming she was sexually assaulted every day for 400 days. All the other hostages said that they were very well treated when in captivity in Gaza. So she seems to be a real outlier in that case. Perhaps if they covered her body to protect her during one of the Israeli raids, that she counts that. I mean, I would just venture to suggest she's almost certainly flat out lying, believe it or not. And of course, the the Sinayim have picked up the ball and run with that all over the place. This is evidence that Hamas is evil. Randy Fine, a fat cretin, soon-to-be ex-congressman from Florida, tweeted, Palestinian is a synonym for evil. Okay. So that's the mentality that you're dealing with. As I say, the doubling down, the genocide denial, the counterattack is endlessly. Just over the weekend, it's been disclosed that the British Museum is removing the word Palestine from ancient artifacts discovered in Palestine, hundreds, thousands of years ago. As a result of lobbying by a Zionist group, of course. So, they just don't give up. They never give up. They never give an inch. We did, of course, have a tremendous win last week with the deprescription of Palestine Action, which has got them all absolutely jumping up and down. Revealingly, the Board of Deputies of British Jews published an open letter, of course, condemning the decision by the courts. They're not really, it seems, interested in due process and all that. And it's worth remembering that Justice Sharp, the chairwoman of the three-person panel, is herself Jewish. Okay, so you had a key person, the person delivering the report last week was actually Jewish herself. Anyway, they describe Palestine's actions as threatening or interfering with Jewish communal life. Well, as far as I know, Palestine Action have only ever targeted weapons factories. So the Board of Deputies, therefore saying themselves that, as far as they're concerned, Jewish communal life consists of weapons manufacture, which is an extraordinary thing to say.
Oh, well, yeah, at least they're upfront about it. That seems to be one little perk we get in the modern era.
I don't think Elbit have targeted anything other than weapons manufacturers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the planes at Bryce Norton that got them into so much hot water.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Yvette Cooper, who was Home Secretary when the ban was introduced, now Foreign Secretary, absolutely reprehensible individual. She's been on the television this morning, doubling down on her accusations that Palestine Action is a terror group and set out to harm individuals, something that has already prompted a contempt of court response by Defend Our Juries, I think it is, who reported her to the Attorney General. But the Attorney General is an uber Zionist, so don't expect any proceedings against Yvette Cooper for contempt of court anytime soon.
Yeah, I wouldn't bank on it, man. Let me bring aboard the man who always has my back when I can't remember something, like the name of the movie, The Never-Ending Story. There's a Ruckus among us. Ruckus, welcome to the Sunday Wire. So we've covered a lot of ground already. That was a really interesting presentation from Patrick Henningsen. I saw a lot of highlightable comments about that while it was rolling, but I didn't want to distract from the presentation there. But what are your thoughts after what we've seen so far today?
Well, I think some people in the comments sections would love to distract from the content. Anyways, that's a whole nother story for another day. It was actually the second time I saw that they debuted that, or parts of that, probably not even the whole thing, when Patrick was on UK Column on Friday. I believe it was Friday. So I had caught some of that. But to witness the live pushback against what Patrick was presenting was eye-opening, even inside of our own chat rooms. Because, again, that's a reminder of, like, the Western propaganda has really set forth a very solid idea, narrative of what people are supposed to think of that area of the world. Because, as you pointed out, Hesher, the vast majority of us are unable and or unwilling to travel out there and witness it for ourselves. I mean, which sets up a perfect, I guess people understand this when they're watching a movie like, say, Wag the Dog. But when people are, encountering this in real life, a manufactured reality, which is so easy to do. I mean, everyone says, oh, we're connected, they can't fake it. No, it's because we're connected, they can so much more easily fake it. Because, again, you are unable and or unwilling to go out there and do what Bill Cooper told us to do, which I always remind everybody on this program before I leave, but that's to read everything, listen to everybody, but prove something for yourself. You can't believe anything unless you do the research yourself. So, I can't go out there to Iran, but I've developed a level of trustworthiness. Patrick has demonstrated to me in his reporting enough degree of trust that I can trust that his reporting can be taken at how he's presenting it. Now, I can't say for that's a fact. Maybe he's mistaken. Maybe he's lying. I don't believe that he is. I don't know that he isn't. But the thing is, that's all we have left in this world. Johnny Vedmore recently tagged myself in a comment. I was very honored by that. But he was asked, who do you trust as a journalist? Who would you turn to and trust? And he made an excellent post. I wish I had it in front of me, but he included a few names. He dropped a few names, and he did mention myself as just the fact that he's worked with us. So by working with some of these people, we've developed a certain level of trust that is afforded to us from the inside that you as the viewer, unfortunately, don't have. But I think if you just stick with us and you see we're always vindicated. I have yet to discover anything that Patrick has necessarily reported about the heavy stuff with geopolitics that he's had to come back and say, ooh, we were wrong. Instead, it's everyone else around us who has shifted and had to say, oh, shoot, we were wrong, but look at them over there. They were right the whole time. And that's why, I'm honored to be a part of this organization.
Yeah, absolutely. Basil, did you get a chance to see Patrick's video from Iran there? It's interesting to me how many preconceptions there are from Westerners about what life is like there. And, what we just saw from Patrick. And then a month or so ago, Syrian girl was there also showing some video clips and, disproving a lot of just very basic, common propagandic misconceptions that live in the mind of Westerners.
Yeah, I saw some of Patrick's report, most of it, in fact, on Friday when I was on UK column duty. And he was able to join us live from Tehran as well for a while. I think that perhaps the first thing to note is he said that there is political discourse, there is plurality of opinion in Tehran. It is not simply a monolithic viewpoint handed down from on high, which everybody has to agree with. And if you don't, you're excommunicated or worse. It said that there was, lively political debate, which is interesting, particularly when set against the scenes of the mass murderer and sadist Netanyahu in Congress last week, who's given a longer standing ovation than Kim Jong-un gets in North Korea. And everybody sneers at North Korea as being an obvious dictatorship. Personally, I can't bear, I don't know about YouTube, I can't bring myself to watch those scenes. I mean, it's absolutely satanic, really. Seeing this mass murderer and fugitive from international justice being lauded by supposedly the greatest country in the world, but I think Americans are beginning to wake up to the fact that they have been hijacked. I hope Patrick's report, some of which was shown on Judging Napolitano, the Freedom YouTube channel with Judge Napolitano, Judging Freedom it's called, isn't it? They had a decent clip of him on there. So Patrick's making his way up the food chain as well, and might become a regular guest amongst that illustrious cast who he has on there. But I hope, how many people, unfortunately, the Napolitano exposure will massively increase the number of Americans that got to see that report, and hopefully they'll follow up and watch more of it, because yes, the vision of Iran that we're presented with in the West is obviously vastly different from the reality on the ground, where most people, as in America, as in Britain, as in everywhere else, are simply going about their business, trying to make a living and pay for the roof over their heads and the food on the table. The people of Britain, the people of America, the people of Iran have no beef with each other whatsoever. But certainly in the case of the West, we've been to a large extent hijacked, haven't we, by an oligarchy that is determined on asserting control over other countries who pose no threat whatsoever, like Iran.
Interesting that you say that. Commenters are feeling similarly. Basil at World's End says, "Oi, we have been hijacked, or have we been hijacked?" Yeah, good question. Uh, let's see here. Chanel 3202 here in USA, people are angry. That's an interesting one, Ruckus. I am seeing there's a almost like a pure trajectory for someone who is like recently red pilling on these topics, these geopolitical topics to do with Israel. And usually if you have any sort of constitutional mindedness, you end up kind of angry about it. And I am seeing quite the uptick about that. I mean, this is nothing new, but it does seem to be getting, Basil pointed out the recent visit, or is he still here? I don't know. It's like the whole country stops, and all of a sudden there's these roundtables happening with Netanyahu and all these other characters. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. What do you think, Ruckus? Do you see the rise in that sort of natural effect that people get, when they are new to this information?
Well, of course, and it's all part of the plan to a degree. I mean, fear is a great emotion to control the population, but they're okay with people being angry at Israel because that furthers the agenda theirs. Because then they do this neat little trick where somebody mistakenly acts upon their anger and they say, "See, this wouldn't have happened if so many people didn't hate us," and they're like, "Well, maybe you shouldn't do things intentionally to allow people to hate you over with the intention of making them angry so you can point at them and say, 'Why are you angry?'" It's kind of getting ridiculous at this point, and obvious. And again, maybe it's the Overton window. I don't know. We're still debating whether or not the Epstein files is being distracted from, or is the distraction from something else. Who the heck knows? I've got a really bad feeling about the technocracy and the AI stuff because it seems to have taken a back seat in the global discussion and in the news cycles compared to some of these other things. And my spidey sense is really tingling. I'm sure we're going to be discussing that on the next episode of the Boiler Room, so we will save our rounds for that. But that's really kind of where my head is at. And real quick, to address, somebody was asking about what's with the chess piece and the global thing. This really does just ultimately denote geopolitics in general and where we're at. There is a hidden hand in the elite group behind the scenes who do love the concept of chess, and they are playing a world game of chess, and we are the stage, and some of us are the players, unwittingly, unfortunately. But that's why we went with that and some of the binary code for the technocracy, mostly because we didn't have like a solid plan for like, we're going to talk about this one exclusive thing today. Otherwise, the graphic would have reflected that. But I hope that makes sense now. I hope, and that's also, again, where my head is at with all of these things. So there's a major game taking place, and we're just here trying to figure out what it is and what the end game is.
Yeah, the technocratic grand chessboard is always an evergreen sort of graphic. So, we went with that. And Ruckus, just to thanks Creative Accidents for dropping us the specific link. Just to back you up here, here's the post you were talking about. One True Fraggle said, "Who do you consider the best journalists out there, Johnny? Difficult to know who to trust." And you can tell by Johnny's response that he is like-minded with us about the technocracy aspect, because he says, "Oh, dude, that's hard. You have to learn who to trust yourself, I suppose." But he mentions Tim Hinchcliffe, and he mentions Whitney Webb, Monica Perez, Courtney Turner, Geopolitics and Empire, Weaponized News, and of course, our friend AC_Wordslinger here, Adam Clark. So yeah, that's really the kind of I like the way he responded to that. That's kind of the mindset one has to have. You have to learn who to trust yourself, and even then, you always have to be questioning, because you'll see a lot of new people pop up into the ecosystem, and they'll say things that resonate for weeks and weeks, months on end, sometimes years on end, and then boom, something will happen and they'll flip, or they'll start supporting something that you just feel is propagandic or incorrect or whatever. It's a murky area.
It's almost an easier game to run through the long, and I mean long, list of people you can't trust.
Yeah.
And if you just start blacklisting people, then you're like, oh, look who's left. These must be the good people. See?
Yeah, there you go. So Basil, yeah, it's definitely hard to figure out, where to find trust in the media, and all this stuff. So, luckily we've got a pretty good circle of friends and colleagues and professionals that we work with. But it has taken many years, wouldn't you say? It's someone's coming into this fresh, and they have to sort out geopolitics, and they're sorting out finance, and they're sorting out conspiracy theories and conspiracy facts. It's it's kind of a long trudge, and you will find yourself in dark places as you learn more and more.
Yeah, interestingly, Cenk Uygur came out in the week and said he no longer believes the official version of 9/11, and was an influential left-wing commentator who had dealings with Peter Mandelson and Morgan McSweeney when he was an official in the Labour Party. His name escapes me now, but he was on Crispin Flintoff's show last week and got a bit of publicity because of his association, particularly with Mandelson back in the 80s. But the 9/11 thing, there's some bleed through, isn't there, from something that used to be confined entirely to the sort of conspiracy crowd, with the sort of traditional left, if you can call it that, and for that matter, the traditional right, eschewing any contact with anybody who questioned the official version of 9/11. Now, Tucker did his limited hangout.
Yeah, he did.
Very, very limited hangout. Cenk's defection as well. They had a conversation last week as well. Cenk was Tucker's guest. So, little bit too little, little bit too late, but better late than never that voices like that are starting to come together and unpick the whole empire of lies that passes for reality for most people still, unfortunately, because we really need to. There was again a meme, wasn't there? Rather, a release from the Epstein documents about Ghislaine Maxwell asking, was it an email directly to Epstein himself? What happened to the real pilot on 9/11? I don't know if you saw that.
I did, and my eyeballs got real big for a second.
So, but of course, corporate media won't touch any of this stuff ever. That's why the Guardian will never get a penny off me.
Yeah.
However many times they ask, and however many new browsers I have to open in order to get past their article limitation threshold. So,
but isn't it strange? They're still reporting when somebody resigns over it. They'll say like, "Oh, so and so has left their position or is leaving politics because of their." Because of their name showing up in the Epstein files. But then that's the news. They won't talk about like anything. They just say, oh, yeah, they're out because of this. Have a good day. Here's the weather.
Oh my gosh, I know. I follow some of those big blue check accounts on X, and I can't believe how many of them are just like, dropping little nuggets, and it's like, well, duh, every time, duh, like, do you want to expand on what that nugget means to you? We've got all these like top 40 greatest hits of the Epstein files right now. And, you've got all these blue check marks that are riding the Trump wave, basically wouldn't be there without the Trump/Elon wave at all. We wouldn't even know who some of these people are that live in other countries that spout off and talk like they live here and talk like they're MAGA. It's ridiculous. So, you see the way they talk about the Epstein files, and it's exactly that. It's a trickle drip of specifics, a trickle drip of, oh, Tony Hawk had to explain all of his relationship history because he was mentioned by some CI in the files. And it's like, okay, is that important to us at all? I mean, when I think Tony Hawk, I think about 720 McTwist. Okay, that's about it. I don't even if he was like all the celebrities, like I care very little about their participation in this. Like the celebrities, like they're like the little pets of the friends of Jeffrey circle. The celebrities, I mean, look at Stephen Hawking. How many times was Stephen Hawking in there? I've seen some insane AI slop videos of like Epstein and Clinton like rubbing down hawking, and just these creepy eyes wide shut situations. And you can't kind of help but wonder like how close to reality that actually is. But yeah, these little blue check mark accounts, no, they want to just drop little nuggets, little breadcrumb trails, little easily digestible black pills, right? And then it's like just move on to the next one, not stop and pause and think, what does it mean? I like the term you just used, Basil. I may steal that for Boiler Room tonight. An empire of lies. Like, what does it mean to actually live in a reality and a political system that is built on an empire of lies?
Yeah, absolutely. And why no investigation of all these code words? Pizza, of course, was just one, but there are lots and lots of others. There's no forensic examination in the corporate media at all. And yet this is the biggest story in the world by far, I've seen people saying that, yes, they would have World War III rather than have all this exposed. Simple as that.
I mean, it may be the perfect reason to actually do World War III, right? I mean, trust in institutions is gone at this point. And this isn't the kind of release that, the public doesn't have access to. Right now, there are multiple people on X that are advertising their own version. Like, people have used AI to go out and scrape the DOJ website and pull all of the information into their own servers.
Wow.
And then put it in an LLM that you and I and everybody can interact with. So you can now go into the files and you can search by any name, and there are hyperlinks all over it. Like, they've made it convenient to sort, to search, to index, to go back to constantly cross-reference. So internet sleuths around the world right now are literally creating heat maps, relationship maps, any kind of graphic map you can possibly think of, that shows the Friends of Jeffrey network. And it's absurd. You wouldn't be able to do it with a corkboard and strings and push pins. It's just not doable. It's crazy. And these AI tools have it set up so you can go in there and hyperlink. You can click on anything on the heat map, hyperlink to it, topics, people, politicians, finance, whatever. So, I mean, this isn't the kind of drop, like we've seen in the past where, it just kind of like, oh, we'll have some congressional hearings about it. I mean, we're seeing those. We all laughed really hard at Pam Blondie, Scam Blondie up there talking about the Dow. People are making remix songs about her, obfuscating from the pedocracy to the Dow, the current Dow. I mean, it's insane. It's absolutely insane to see. But
yeah, I mean, that's arguably the most ludicrous thing anybody has ever said in one of those congressional hearings.
People want her impeached.
In the last 200 years, you're being asked about, one of America's most notorious criminals of the last 30 years. And you want to deflect to how well the economy is doing. And what's more, just one aspect of the economy, which is the Dow, which has got nothing to do with ordinary people's living standards. Absolute nonsense. I mean, beyond nonsense, just sort of off the charts, isn't it?
I mean, I thought I was watching an episode of Fraggle Rock for a moment, Ruckus.
Yeah.
In my head, when I see it now, I don't hear her saying, what about the Dow or all the things she says. I hear her saying, but what about all of the rich, wrinkly old white dudes who are making a killing in the stock market? That's all I'm hearing her say. And I'm just like, wow, lady, pretty wild. You brought up the AI tool, which is interesting, but that does add the extra, the WTF, the wild card into this whole trust issue, because we were talking about trust in independent journalism. Obviously, we're losing trust. There's a huge erosion of that, probably by design, of the institutions, of the governments, the banking system, media, sources of information, and all of that stuff, because the AI is designed to replace it. But you just said, you pointed out one of the quote unquote good uses of AI. I can't help but think that we're maybe falling into a trap because we are somehow inherently trusting these AI tools. How do we know, somebody built this tool with the help of AI? How do we know that AI is really being helpful or isn't helping further obfuscate information and or make it worse? I was just dealing with an AI earlier today, one who's usually pretty good. I don't care. I'll shame it. It's Microsoft Copilot. I was trying to ask it how to resize an image because I was making some graphics today, and it did some quick math. and it did the math completely wrong. I could take a calculator and prove to it that it did the math wrong. I had to tell it that its math was wrong before it had to stop there and think and redo the whole thing again. But if I was the type of person that just takes what it says at face value and posts it on X, I'm now spreading misinformation. See, so I don't trust using AI to sort through these types of information. It sounds neat and convenient, but I think we got to do it the hard way, unfortunately.
Yeah, but even doing it the hard way, and I agree with you, there's a lot of pitfalls in there, but this one is interesting to me because this particular pitfall, at least one of the ones I was looking at, I believe it was called Jmail. If you look up, I'll see if I can bring it up, but if you look up Jmail on X, they've set up their service in a way where you can literally go to the DOJ's URL and just cut out the part that says, you know, doj.gov or whatever and put in Jmail. Whatever. And they've mirrored every single one. So it's like one still needs to verify everything they're looking at, and one still has to, you know, decide for themselves what they think of the drop. You know, all of us are still struggling with that a little bit. You know, when that first dropped, I had some comments about this. When it first dropped, they were like, you guys were skeptical about it on week 1, and week 2, you're like, hey, there's a lot of vindication happening here. Well, yeah, that's because our default position is skeptical pretty much with everything. So, you know, it takes time to look through it. But that's the cool thing right now is there's so many people looking through it and pulling stuff out of it. And it's not just like you have to, at least with the one that I looked into, it's not like you have to just trust what's coming out of this system. It cross-references back to what the government has posted. So yeah, it's still a lot of research involved, but you know, at least you can source any issues that you find back to the original documents. And that's, you know, a step further than where we used to be.
Kim Jong Billy just made me laugh out loud. They say Copilot is so good, it made me switch to Linux.
Yeah, Apple, Google, Dell, Microsoft, all so good. They make me want to switch to Linux. Goodness gracious. Yeah, even the podcasting services make me want to switch to something else. Like we already have some backups on hand, because the problem with the podcast thing is there's only 2 main indexes for the podcasts out there. For those of you that don't know how this works on the back end, I'll pull the hood up for a moment here, pull the bonnet up. Basically, Apple and Google own the index. And if you don't know what I mean by the index, it's the database of all the podcasts. So just think about how big podcasting is now. There are 2 databases of them basically that serve all of the primary places where you are probably or might be listening to us if you're listening to this in podcast format, audio format in particular. And we found a couple of apps that actually run on a blockchain where the index is on a blockchain. This is super nerdy, a side road. I won't take you down it too far, but it's a little less convenient than, you know, the big platforms, but there's theoretically, there's zero way to censor it or shadow ban you or visibility filter you on their index. So we are looking at things like that moving forward. But yeah, these sort of things. I mean, Basil, right now we've got the Online Safety Act. We've got the Canadian version of it, the Australian version of it, the New Zealand version of it. The United States has tried several times to do these sort of things where mean speak and mean posting and yeah, MEAN, but that includes MEME posting and all that stuff. So, you know, that sort of technocracy censorship aspect is, you know, just one facet of what Ruckus was talking about earlier.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to give a shout out to Rupert Fellows, who described Pam Bondi, Scam Blondie, as he said. That's a great one, Scam Blondie, as a Taoist, DOWIST. Get it?
Yeah, that is a good one. Your video's frozen there, Baz. I don't know what's going on, but you are.
Oh, that's. I'm afraid I just navigated away to look something up because on UK Column on Friday, Bryan Hesher brought to our attention the fact that one of the people instrumental in drawing up the Online Safety Act, I think his name's Leon Villeman, something like that, has been forced to step aside because of his possession of indecent images of children, something like that. I suggest people go and look it up. I don't want to be quoted on that verbatim, but one of the committee, that was advising the government about the Online Safety Act has been caught with exactly the kind of material that it's designed to protect people from and protect the children from. First of all, I mean, of course, protecting children, should always be our priority, whether it comes to online, but, far more so offline, of course. Real world harm is far more serious than anybody looking at something, even if the one does reflect the other. But it doesn't seem that the government are very interested in that. I mean, there's a stench around this government when it comes to sex with minors. It goes back to Keir Starmer's time as Director of Public Prosecutions, when he declined to prosecute the serial rapist, possible necrophiliac and murderer Jimmy Savile, who, of course, was for a while very close to the upper echelons of the royal family. Believe it or not, he was brought in as a marriage guidance counselor for Charles and Diana, if you can imagine that, and
creepy. That's really creepy.
Was quite close to Charles at one time. Quite a lot of photographs of them together. He was knighted by the Pope as well as the Queen, remember? For what exactly? So Keir Starmer, even in spite of the mountains of evidence, we didn't know, is always the claim. And that's the same now with the depth and length and breadth of Peter Mandelson's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. The claim is we didn't know, it's a concerted attempt. We've seen it coming for years by the European Union in cahoots with the United States government to clamp down on freedom of speech, across the internet, using child abuse as a cover. But we all know that, the real target is dissent from establishment political narratives. It's as simple as that. The narrowing of the acceptable opinion corridor and what terms can and cannot be used, and what you are allowed to criticize and in what way. And of course, the thin end of the wedge with all this, and I know that there are attempts to bring in laws along these lines in the United States, are the so-called hate speech laws, because that allows legislators to, and then the people acting on the legislation, police, of course, and public prosecution services, to determine the intent behind what somebody said. We've ended up in a complete mess. There shouldn't be any hate speech laws. Conspiracy to murder, incitement to murder, incitement to cause criminal death, whatever. There's enough laws on the statute book already to deal with anything that would be called so-called hate speech.
Yeah. And this whole thing with, we're doing it to protect the kids. Are you kidding me? Like, what exactly has been done to protect kids ever by these people? We're talking about this.
So, I mean, these people should be demanding forensic examination of the Epstein files, the digging up of the Trump golf courses, the, mass arrests pending charges. Why isn't Wexner in jail with no bail, being quizzed every day under bright lights,
Haven't seen any of this. Or
likewise Leon Black,
Right.
And dozens of others. The 6 people named in Congress last week by Ro Khanna, and there are dozens more, aren't there?
Yeah.
They're too big to fail, Basil.
Well, this is it. But, this is part of the great noticing, isn't it? That people are starting to realize, hang on a minute,
Yeah.
there's an elite running the show who appear to be untouchable.
But Basil, a bunch of rich, wrinkly old dudes are getting richer, and that's what we should be talking about.
They'll get to keep their homes when the economy destroys.
That's right.
Yeah. I just want to put this up real quick. This is an example from that X page I was telling you about. The X page is at Jmail Archive, and here's just one example of the kind of thing that you can do there. They say we built Jikipedia, Jikipedia, a new wiki that compiles Jmail data into exhaustive reports on key figures in the Epstein scandal. It lists all recorded visits to Epstein's estates, each person's possible knowledge of Epstein's crimes, and laws they may have violated. As an example, here's Epstein's executive assistant who sent over 100,000 emails to him and was shielded from prison in 2007 in a 2007 non-prosecution deal. So, a little breadcrumb like that, and you go into their their X account here. There's their full X account, official account for the Jmail suite, and interactive archive tracking the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. Now, this is not the only thing I've found like this out here. Popular TikToker Ian Carroll is advertising something similar, and others out there of various outlets are doing similar stuff. So
Now, the Jmail and the Wikipedia, they probably want to reconsider their branding. That could be considered anti-Semitic in some circles.
could be antiseptic. Yes, we'll at least there at the point.
They put a little hat on their logo, but it was a different kind of little hat, so they should probably be safe. It's okay.
Yeah, we should be okay. They've got a sun hat, right? It's not a juice box.
That I'm guessing that's because obviously the J is because of Jeffrey Epstein, but the hat, the emails in question that they're recreating here was his. It was called the Jeffrey Epstein Vacation at gmail.com or so. So it was his vacation account. So because if you're gonna talk about pizza and satanic sacrifices and hardcore geopolitics and antibiotics for your venereal disease, you do so on the vacation email, not the business email.
Right. Makes perfect sense. I mean, it fits with all their encoding schemes, right?
No, none of this makes any sense. But
No,
anyway.
it really doesn't. Let me show you guys this one. I got a clip I want to show you here. I have not watched this yet. It was just sent to me, and I guess it came out yesterday afternoon. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she has some comments about the Epstein files and the Trump administration. Let's see what she has to say.
That fight to release the Epstein files came directly from President Trump. And I know a lot of people have a hard time with that, but that is the truth. He fought the hardest to stop these files from being released. That fight to release the Epstein.
Okay, so short clip there, but there's Marjorie Taylor Greene claiming that Donald Trump himself was one of the loudest voices in the fight against this information being released. I don't know if I should be surprised. I'm not.
But
No,
he's
I'm not
okay
in
with
the
that.
least. I'm not in the least bit surprised.
Yeah.
I mean, he knows what went on in the 80s and 90s with Epstein and how close they were. The claim, of course, is that Trump distanced himself from Epstein at some point earlier this century. But, we've only got his word for that, which isn't worth very much, is it?
And that's what ultimately all of these files at the end of the day are only truly ultimately can be proven in a court of law. The only good stuff we got is just the fact that these people lied. So it's it's not, so it's not necessarily a crime to tell a lie unless you've done so under oath in some sort of, setting like that. So that's why we're hearing about these people just losing their jobs or quietly retiring or stepping away from politics because they're not going to get in trouble. Nobody's going to jail. None of these people are, all of these things. And then why throw in the weird, salacious, random things that they've already allegedly proven is not true, like the FBI hotline stuff, like the dead bodies in the backyard, stuff.
It's especially not true, right, that they're going to go to jail if no one's going to investigate it, if no one's going to start an investigation, if no indictments are sent out. There is so much. So Ruckus, correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're saying sounds to me like there's a lot of circumstantial evidence in here, guys. We got millions of lines of circumstantial evidence. And if an honest investigative team were to start pulling those threads, things would happen. An investigation would happen that would probably lead to indictments. But if no one is willing to do anything more than what, internet sleuths can do and blue check marks on X, what's it for?
Well, it's very difficult to bring convictions in murder cases if there's no body. Simple as that. You need a corpse, really.
Right.
I mean, the worst of it is that children were taken, certainly in the Savile case, from children's homes where they wouldn't be missed. In the case of the sort of elite satanic paedophile ring, children are not given birth certificates and are bred purely for the purpose of human sacrifice. Now, I mean, that sounds such an appalling thing, such a monstrous, satanic thing to say, but that's what's being alleged, put it that way, in which case forensic evidence is very, very hard to come by, just as forensic evidence of rape is hard to come by. The victims who stood up in Congress last week, if you were raped 25 years ago as a 14-year-old by Ehud Barak or Jeffrey Epstein, at this point, it's only your word against theirs. Simple as that. It's not like, I mean, if a woman is raped on Saturday night, she can go to the police immediately. And these days they can take a DNA sample and, build up a forensic case. But obviously with historic accusations of sexual abuse, that's impossible. So it does become very difficult to get convictions in any of these cases. But that doesn't stop the authorities from making the process, the punishment, when it comes to people who do things that the authorities don't like. I mean, we've just had, 6 prisoners released from jail, having spent 18 months on remand in the harshest possible conditions, detained under terrorism legislation in Britain, the equivalent of a 4-year sentence. They spent 18 months before getting their trial. Why can't Leon Black and Les Wexner spend 18 months in a federal, or I gather state penitentiaries are worse, in a state penitentiary awaiting trial, even if they do get off at the end of it?
Well, yeah, and like maybe also worth looking at, like the first time Jeffrey went to jail on a conviction, why is it that he was treated so differently than any normal person that gets convicted of the things he was convicted for? Why is it that he had local police in plain clothes bringing him to and from his cell? Why was he only in his cell one night a week? What, there all this, like, he had all these luxuries. It was basically like, if you've ever seen Goodfellas, the way they're treated in prison, kind of like that, if you need a visual aid. Why did that happen? How did that happen? Same with Ghislaine. Like, why is she in a low security yoga class, vegan diet, women's prison?
Getting
What is
plastic
that?
surgery, allegedly. Right?
Having time for plastic surgery. The president of the United States wishing her well, saying she's a nice person many years ago. I mean, what is going on here? And then, of course, the claims of body doubles. I mean, don't scoff at claims of body doubles. We have evidence of many people having body doubles for them, to include Zelensky. Zelensky's been photographed with his body double. Saddam Hussein, body double. Like, so many people have had body doubles. I mean, you're really not a world oligarch unless you got a body double.
Yeah, the most egregious case was when Hillary Clinton collapsed.
Yes.
Do you remember that one? And then this other woman appeared a few hours later in a wig. That was an absolute joke.
You can find actual historical documentaries and books and articles about how this is a known practice. Like that, yeah, of course they use doubles. Yeah, like, you'd be stupid if you didn't,
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have you wished you had a double? Not a digital clone, mind you, but just a way to double up your capacity, your time, all that stuff. I mean, if you're rich, famous, oligarch, you got that possibility. No
Well,
problem.
I meant for the protection purposes because you might be the target of an assassination. So,
That's
yeah,
the
a lot of these
original.
the high level people do have these doubles for that purpose. Yeah, it's so sad.
Yeah, that's the
We
original
don't get doubles. We
primary need
get the
for that.
digital doubles who are going to run our lives for us and then take our money. You know.
Yeah,
that's cool.
great. Absolutely great. Someone asked earlier, where can I find the full video from Patrick? Probably want to share
yeah,
it.
I think UK Column is probably the best place to look. Friday's episode, and then the UK Column Extra, which is normally for subscribers only, that has also been made available publicly.
Okay, great.
It's a great show as well for other content. So do go and have a look at that afterwards.
Absolutely, and I'm sure it'll come up at 21stcenturywire.com after it's reached its exclusive period on UK Column.
Well, before I go as well, I want to give a plug to Press TV's Palestine Declassified, which has just been released. And I think you have to go to the Press TV website or simply search for Palestine Declassified, because we did a forensic examination of the Zionist corruption of the UK law and order forces through police to Crown Prosecution Service. So, and of course, the employment of Coresight AI to run the facial recognition software that's due to be rolled out across Britain in the coming years. Coresight AI also ran the facial recognition software in Gaza, responsible for the slaughter of so many innocent people, and well, of course, there were links, likewise back to the usual suspects in all that. I mean, we're hoping that the Palantir contracts are all going to get cancelled because of Peter Mandelson's role in facilitating them. Palantir
that'd be great,
wouldn't it? Palantir have got their fingers in a £240 million contract with the Ministry of Defence, which they had the audacity to celebrate at a lavish party at the home of the British Film and Theatre Association, BAFTA. They had a party at BAFTA on Wednesday of last week. Some of the BAFTA employees were horrified to discover that the premises had been used for Palantir to celebrate their multi-million-pound contract with the MOD. And they're also embedded in their National Health Service now.
Oh boy, MOD, does that stand for Method of Destruction?
Yeah, very well said. Yeah.
All right, Basil.
How long it'll be before that's the Ministry of War,
right?
Like it's becoming the United States.
Yeah, you guys got to catch up.
I don't know why you guys are so mean to Palantir all the time. you have something against them? They're very
well, interesting.
Nice.
I think it came out in the files this week that Epstein was an early investor in Palantir when it was a startup. So that should, certainly in this side of the pond, that should mean the immediate cancellation of all their contracts, because we're very doubtful about where Epstein got his enormous wealth from in such a short space of time. I think it's fair to speculate, was he being paid for supplying children for sexual purposes to the rich and powerful, or even worse, supplying children for human sacrifice to the rich and powerful? And did he use those proceeds to invest in Palantir? Is Palantir built on child abuse
and blackmail? Let's not forget also that their blackmail was associated with all those activities.
So I leave you with that. Palestine Declassified on Press TV, UK Column last Friday, and I'll be back there again, all being well, next Friday, UK Column 1 p.m. UK time. So that's 8 a.m. on the East Coast. And it's up on YouTube afterwards, UK Column News. We do cover Europe and the United States, not just the UK.
All right. Excellent, Basil. Thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate your time. And we'll look forward to seeing you again real soon.
My pleasure. All the best. Have a great week, everyone.
Okay. Basil Valentine checking out of the Sunday Wire here, Ruckus. Ruckus, before we get too far, I have a couple.
Well, let me, before you get serious, I'll lighten the mood a little bit. I was just going to mention that Basil is probably jealous because he did not get a Valentine's from Palantir directly the way I did. I got one directly from the CEO himself, Alex Karp. So I feel special. I assume not everybody got one of these, but he sent me a little note. He said that while my algorithms have been quietly profiling your every click, like, and late night scroll since 2003, I've concluded with 99.97% confidence that you're the only anomaly worth keeping in my data set forever. Happy Valentine's Day. No opt-out available. Your CEO and permanent admin. Oh, wasn't that sweet?
What a nice guy. Oh boy. See, we tickled the algorithm a little today. Carp got his shout out.
See,
Yeah.
they love you. They love
No
everybody.
opt out. No opt out. That's the best part. It's permanent love. It's for life, right? They've got you, and they love you for life.
I feel so loved.
Ah, yeah, I can feel it. I can feel the love, man. Okay, so this one, this may have to be one of those I'll just leave this right here stories, but I wish, and for me personally, one of those I wish Patrick was here right now stories. So do with this one what you will, my friends. Let me share the screen here. I can't wait to ask Patrick about this. This is why were Baal statues burned at Iran's Revolution Army or anniversary rallies? So there's an image right there. Supposedly, demonstrators burning a large-horned, bull-headed Baal statue during a state organized rally marking the anniversary of Iran's 1979 Islamic Revolution on February 11th of 2026. And it says during state organized rallies marking Iran's 1979 revolution anniversary, demonstrators in several cities burned large statues of a horned, bull-headed figure identified by organizers as Baal, Baal, if you're not familiar, an ancient deity referenced in biblical and Islamic tradition. Iranian news agency Mehr said the effigy represented, quote, the idol of Baal, end quote, described in religious texts as a false god associated with divination from monotheism. And participants were chanting, death to this country, death to that country, probably America and Israel. But that's what we're hearing in the reports, quoted as saying the act symbolized resistance to what they described as corrupt Western systems and Zionist ideology. So I think there's also a mention of Epstein in here. Hardline outlets and channels said the burning was a symbolic reference to documents recently released by the U.S. DOJ related to Epstein, who was charged in 2019 with running a sex trafficking ring involving underage girls. So there you go. A little bit of WTF news there, Ruckus. I don't know what to say about that.
I watched quite a handful of the videos of it burning. It was fascinating.
Yeah. Definitely.
No, this is based. This is cool. This is probably one of the this might, I know the year is young, but this is already going to get cataloged in one of my favorite stories for this year. This is the way to do it, because traditionally they would take American symbols like the flag, the American flag. Who knows? Maybe they'll take like a religious text. Maybe they would burn the Bible. I don't know what they do, but they got to have something that symbolizes what is their enemy, the ones who are causing all their pain and suffering for the most part. It's not the other way around, people usually. But yeah, the U.S. And the Western world's global policies have been detrimental to that part of the world. So they're resisting, they're protesting. I thought protesting was good, right? But so they switched it up because they realized what we realize here. It's like, yeah, we've been vindicated. Yes, there is a cabal of satanic pedos who worship creatures like Baal, which was another like a human child sacrifice god from the Old Testament. And these are the things that have never gone away. These are what all of those weird satanic, cult-like rituals, and the Bohemian Groves, Jeffrey's Island with this little altar thing. This is what the elites, the chess players, this is what they're into. So Iran gets it. It's just a darn shame that the sheeple here in the West and in America don't understand what that's. They're like, what are they doing? They're burning a bowl. That has nothing to do with me. I'm like, no, that has everything to do with you. You better wake up, because this is how the rest of the world sees you. From inside, we think like we're like, oh, we're made of gold and we're shining and we're untouchable, unapproachable, and we're perfect. The outside world sees us quite differently, unfortunately.
As a archaic bull demon thing. Yeah, exactly. Maggie says, read Ibrahim Majid's article on the burning of Baal. Good shout out there. Thank you. Please look that up, everybody. And we've got Chanel saying they see Baal as the Satan. And to Ruckus's point, isn't it disheartening to sit there and think, oh my gosh, they don't even see us as a flag or a nation or hate us for our freedom or any of these things that we've been told. They literally look at us as a satanic cabal.
Satan. They say it all the time. They say America is the great Satan. This is what they mean.
That's
Satan, by the way, in case people forget, is a word that means adversary. So,
yeah.
And in a specific type, it's the one that, like, you're not going out and picking a fight with Satan. Do you pick a fight with Satan? No, Satan comes and just does all these conniving, dastardly, disgusting things to try to, pick a fight with you. It's like, can't you just leave me alone?
Never mix Red Bull with Monster Energy. Yeah, that's it. That's good advice. See, we've never let it be said we don't give spiritual and health advice on Sunday Wire. Rupert says the vampire ball, BALL, is over. Yeah, well, we sure hope so. We need it to be over. Look where it's gotten us. You can't have two masters. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Over at 21stcenturywire.com, as you know, normally we have a Sunday screening for you, but this week we are just going to re-amplify the Sunday screening that we had last week in case you missed it. The Sunday screening, Jeffrey Epstein, the unredacted story, came out in 2025. The film reveals incredible survivor testimonies through investigative journalism and legal documents to shed light on the sinister networks, deceit, and power dynamics that enabled Epstein's offenses to remain unpunished for years. So there you go. That's up there at 21stcenturywire.com. Highly recommend you check that out. While you're doing that, you might want to go and check out Freddie Ponton's work at 21stcenturywire.com, especially this one. It just came out 4 days ago. How deep does Epstein's French connection go? There is quite literally no one better to pen this one than
that one.
Freddie Ponton.
That one, yeah, if you guys are interested in this thing, because I mean, obviously all we can prove at the end of the day is we can't prove that a crime has been committed, but we can prove that there certainly exists an architecture of some sort of elite impunity going on here, right? There's a machinery of private wealth, political access, which has shielded this particular predator, Jeffrey Epstein, from social consequences in exchange for something, allegedly his consultancy and his probably his money, but leverage, power, right? So if you want to explore that some more, definitely check this article out by Freddie Ponton. This one is going to dig deeper into the European and the French aspects, going back to the 1980s. Epstein functioned as a strategic fixer and an intelligence asset with some familiar names, including the Rothschilds, as well as the Hermes luxury dynasty. So if you guys are into that stuff, this is the article you should add to your repertoire. You won't find this in the files, but you will find this a much deeper analysis of some of the items that were discovered in the files. It was a good one. I like that one.
Yeah, that's definitely a good one. Also recommend this one over at 21stcenturywire.com, Grooming the Gulf, how Epstein forged Emirati elites into tools for Israel. This one just came out 5 days ago, again by Freddie Ponton.
You'll never guess what that one's about. I don't think I have to tell you much about that one. Do I?
Yeah. Yeah, this is a good one, especially if you're interested in things like, all these connections, Hind AI Oasis and the Epstein emails that stain a nation. That's a good segment here in this article. And then you got a timeline of Epstein's UAE Israel web there. The Sultan's sordid secrets, Ben Solomon's torture videos, and Port Empire. So there's a lot to go through in that one. We also have up there at the site, this one's about a week old. This came out, I think, right after the last Sunday Wire. Leah Pissar's fundraising trail through Ghislaine Maxwell to Epstein, another Freddie Ponton banger here. So if you're one of our internet sleuths, if you're deep diving, you want to know more, definitely head over to 21stcenturywire.com and check out Freddie Ponton's work. Check out the Sunday
real
screening.
quick,
Yeah.
one more from Freddie that's not Epstein related. So if you're sick of Epstein, you want the newest of the new from Freddie, it's up there. It's a long read. It's a deep analysis into the Nord Stream pipeline, but you will find that at 21stcenturywire.com. It sure looks to me, after reading that article, because it sure looks to Freddie like that was a covert NATO operation. There it is.
Yeah. This one is a lot of work has gone into.
He brought the receipts and then some on
Yeah.
this one. Holy
Yeah,
moly.
a lot of research and journalism went into this series. His Nord Stream series is absolutely on fire. It's bar none, probably the best work on the topic out there. And of course, it's up there at 21stcenturywire.com. And while we're talking about receipts, I know people care about receipts these days when we say stuff. Here's the one I was referencing earlier. Ghislaine Maxwell has customized meals delivered to Cell and Pets Puppies, among other special living privileges. So you can find that at the dreaded peoplemagazine.com site, I guess, if you're so inclined. I don't think you probably need to read it, but there's your receipts if you're looking for them. Ruckus, I think that pretty much brings us to the tail end of our presentation here today. Did I forget anything? I guess I could say one more time, thank you to everybody that has participated in the winter fundraising drive. It's still open. It's actually always open, but we push it hard in the winter because it sets up 21st Century Wire for the new year. And you're already seeing some of the benefits from that with Patrick on travel in Iran right now, when most people are leaving the country, or at least are being told they should. So yeah, thank you to everybody that participated in that. Thanks to everybody who's a lifetime member at 21wire.tv. You can do that stuff at the website 21stcenturywire.com. Let's see. I got breaking news coming in here. Thomas Massey ruins Donald Trump. This is the Epstein administration. All right. I tell you what, thanks, man. We got one of our power listeners and participators back there saying, hey, don't stop the show before you play this breaking one right here. This one came out 15 minutes, came out right around the time we started the show. So let's see what Thomas Massey has to say before we close the show down here, Ruckus.
Donald Trump told us that even though, he had dinner with these kinds of people in New York City and West Palm Beach, that he would be transparent, but he's not. He's still in with the Epstein class. This is the Epstein administration. Donald Trump.
Okay, this is the Epstein administration, coming from Donald Trump's least favorite person on Capitol Hill. But wow, guess saying the quiet part, not so quiet, is far from the quiet part anymore, isn't it, Ruckus?
Yeah, well, him and Bro kind of just got to see there were names, which names were redacted, and they're like, those people's names aren't victims. What are you guys doing? So yeah, we got a problem here that we got to fix with this Epstein stuff. Cross your fingers, but I don't think it's going to happen.
No, I predict we'll see the usual pomp and circumstance, dog and pony show on Capitol Hill and in the mass media cartel, and then we'll be disrupted by the next hashtag big thing, whatever that is. But until then, I think we're mostly caught up. Please join us for Boiler Room tonight. I believe there'll be a Boiler Room around 9 p.m. Eastern time. And thank you for being here with us, Ruckus and Basil, on the Sunday Wire. Final words, Ruckus.
Read everything, listen to everybody. Don't believe anything unless you prove it for yourself with your own research. The wise words of Bill Cooper. Thanks for having me. See you on the flip. All
right. Thanks, Ruckus. And thank you for being here with us on the Sunday Wire today. It's been our great pleasure to hold the Battleship Sunday Wire down while Patrick is wheels up. Patrick, safe travels for the rest of your trip, and apologies we weren't able to raise him during the show here, but he'll probably be back with us next week. But we'll find out. We will find out. That's one of the fun things about Sunday Wire. A lot of times it comes together right when it's time to go live. That's what happens when you're dealing with a team of people in remote places, going other places, and trying to broadcast live. And we appreciate you hanging with us while we do that. AlternateCurrentRadio.com. You can support us there as well. Don't forget 21stCenturyWire.com. And we will, let's see, what are we going to close out with today? Let's find something good for today to close out with. Well, they're all good. Let's go with, how about we don't need war? This has been the Sunday Wire. All the best. We will see you again next week.
Don't need war, we need peace. We need to find a release from the ties that bind our minds, from the constraints that rule our lives. Politics has failed again. Power's in the hands of dangerous men, with their fury and their rage, and minds bent with fear, greed and hate. They're dropping bombs again. They don't know that all lives are heaven sent. Time to stop the genocide, the warmongering in our times. Now is the time. It's time for us to visualize a world where peace will shine. Now is the time. Now is the time. Now's the time for change. Tell me, do you feel the same? For here we stand in the name of love, all peoples of the world as one. The revelation needed on the street is that we're more powerful than we believe. What they don't want us to know is that the light of love we shine they can't control. The other day I spoke to God. She said to me, share this message in a song. Time to stop the genocide, the warmongering in our times. Now is the time. It's time for us to visualize a world where peace will shine. Now is the time. Now is the time. Don't need war, we need peace. We need to come together in unity. We can change the world tonight when we let love be our guiding light. time to stop the genocide, the warmongering in our times now. Now is the time. It's time for us to visualize a world where peace will shine now. Now is the time. It's time to heal dividing lines for the sake of humankind now. Now is the time. It's time for us to realize that we're all one in God's mind now. Now is the time. Now is the time. We don't need war, we need peace. We don't need war, we need peace. We don't need war, we need peace.